I don't usually tell this story, not because it is unbelievable, but because once you describe certain things out loud, it feels like they don't stay confined to memory. They feel closer, like they are listening. In 1986, I moved into a small house in southern Illinois, just outside a town most people wouldn't recognize unless they grew up there. It was a quiet place, the kind where nothing ever really happened, and people liked it that way. The house wasn't old, built sometime in the 1950s, according to country records. Two stories, narrow, brick exterior, a small basement that smelled permanently damp, no matter how often I aired it out. There was nothing unusual about it. That is the part I want to be clear about. If the house had looked abandoned, run down, or out of place, I might have been more cautious. But it wasn't. It blended in perfectly. Same design as the others on the street, same trimmed lawns, same silence at night. The first few days passed without incident. I unpacked, got used to the layout, learned which floorboards creaked and which light switches needed a second try. I didn't sleep very well, but I blamed that on the move. Then, a few nights in, I started hearing something. It was subtle at the first, easy to dismiss. Late at night, when the house was quiet, I'd hear a faint sound coming from downstairs. It sounded like liquid moving slowly, not dripping, not splashing, dragging. I told myself it was water in the pipes. Old plumbing could make strange noises, but this wasn't rhythmic. It didn't follow a pattern. It would start, stop, then start again. Minutes later, the first time I went downstairs to check, the sound stopped the moment I entered the kitchen. I stood there in the dark, listening. Nothing. When I turned to leave, it started again. I didn't investigate further that night. The next morning, I noticed the stain. It was on the kitchen wall, just beneath a thin crack in the plaster, a dark red line, about the width of a pencil running straight down toward the floor. At first, I thought it was rust bleeding through from something inside the wall, or maybe old paint reacting to moisture. I touched it. It was sticky. That alone didn't bother me as much as it should have. What bothered me was the smell. It took a second to register, probably because my brain didn't want to accept it. It smelled metallic, like blood. I wiped the wall clean with a cloth and threw it away. By the time I left for work, I would convinced myself I was overreacting. When I came home that afternoon, the stain was back. Same spot, thicker. That night, I heard the sound again, louder this time. I stood in the kitchen with the lights on, watching the wall, listening as the noise came and went. It sounded like something pressing against the inside of the wall, not knocking, leaning. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few days, the stains multiplied. Thin lines appeared in different parts of the kitchen, near the baseboards, around the cabinets, around starting from cracks or seams in the wall. And then the wall started to drip, not continuously, just occasionally. Thick droplets formed slowly before sliding down the tile. I collected some of it in a glass jar and took it to a small local lab. I expected them to tell me it was residue from old materials or contamination from the pipes. They didn't. They told me it was human blood, type O. I laughed when they said that, not because it was funny, but because laughing felt more reasonable than accepting it. The technician suggested it might be a prank, someone sneaking in and smearing blood on the walls. That idea bothered me more than anything else, so I decided to test it. Before leaving town for a week, I sprayed flour across the entire kitchen floor. A thin, even layer. No gaps, no shortcuts. If someone entered the house, they would leave footprints. When I came back, the house was exactly as I had left it. The door was locked, the windows were intact, the floor was untouched. No footprints. No disturbance. But the walls, they were covered. Not splatters, handprints, smears, long dragging marks, like fingers had been pulled downward again and again. Some of the prints were small, too small to belong to an adult. The blood had dried, almost black. I didn't stay long enough to pack properly. Authorities came later, samples were taken, photos documented. They didn't offer explanations, just exchanged looks and spoke quietly among themselves. Eventually, the city condemned the house. A decision was made to demolish it. I watched from across the street as the machinery tore into the structure. When they broke through the foundation, everything stopped. They found bodies buried directly beneath the concrete slab. Young women, no identification, no records that matched. Some were incomplete. Some had broken fingers. Others had scratch marks carved into the stone above them. They hadn't died peacefully. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Years later, in a different state, I woke up in the middle of the night with a familiar smell in my nose. Metallic. Warm. I turned on the light. A thin red line was forming on my bedroom wall. Slowly, like it had taken its time, finding me again.